Welcome to the OmniDental podcast. Now, while OmniDental is definitely renowned for comprehensive care, including things like advanced periodontal disease treatment right here in Arlington Heights IL and our entire service area, today we're actually taking a bit of a detour. We're stepping away from plaque and scaling to analyze something, well, much more abstract, the digital interface.
Yes, indeed. And the source material we've got today is, probably the most unusual we've tackled. Forget the usual dense manuals or, historical documents. Our sources are just two incredibly short snippets, almost throwaway lines from what looks like a system status screen.
Okay, right, so let's unpack this then. Our mission essentially is to analyze these tiny fragments, phrases like, "one moment please," and a notification from something called the loader. We're basically going to do a kind of forensic linguistic analysis on, well, the language of latency. What can these minimal words really tell us about digital transparency or managing expectations, and fundamentally how trust is designed in the machine?
It's a really critical look at what you might call the digital apology, isn't it? These phrases are how the interface tries to manage, well, your perception of time. It acknowledges that the system isn't instantaneous, which is, in a way, a failure, and it tries to soothe potential frustration using language.
Okay, let's start with that absolute classic, the bedrock of the digital. Wait, one moment, please.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because it doesn't sound like a machine talking at all. It's completely conversational. It feels like the digital version of, say, an office assistant stepping away from their desk for a second.
And that's precisely the intent behind it, the design. If the screen just froze solid, we'd instantly think, uh-oh, system failure.
Right.
You'd get that quick stress spike and probably start mashing the refresh button. By putting in this polite, sort of human-sounding phrase, the system is basically saying, hey, I'm still here. It confirms I'm not broken, I'm just busy right now.
But maybe we should challenge that word polite. I sometimes find that phrase to be, well, a pretty sophisticated form of manipulation, actually. They aren't really asking us to wait just one moment, are they? They're telling us to wait for an unspecified, maybe even quite lengthy, period. The please feels like an order that's just been softened with a bit of social grace. Is it genuinely polite? Or is it clever psychological engineering designed to keep us passive, glued to the screen?
That really touches on the question of control, doesn't it? The system is forcing this asynchronous process. It controls the time, right? But the language it uses kind of pretends the delay is just this brief shared inconvenience. What's really interesting is how they picked the time unit. They didn't say, please wait 4.3 seconds or whatever. They chose 1 moment, which we all just understand means a short, manageable time, regardless of how many actual seconds are ticking by.
And think about older interfaces. We used to just get, a blinking cursor maybe? Or that generic spinning circle with zero context. The move towards these textual placeholders, it shows a recognition that user patience is probably the most valuable resource a system actually uses up.
It also shows an evolution in our digital literacy, I think. We now sort of accept that the machine is doing stuff behind the scenes that we can't see, and the text just provides that bare minimum justification we need to keep believing the machine's still working. It's really about maintaining a low-friction experience. That conversational placeholder just smooths over the bumps caused by technical lag.
Okay, now let's shift from that very general placeholder to the more specific technical detail that was in our sources. The next snippet actually names the component supposedly responsible for the delay, the loader. The message reads, "Loader, please wait while your request is being verified."
Right, and this is a crucial pivot, a really important shift. We go instantly from that vague social politeness to a specific technical label. In design terms, that's actually quite brilliant. By naming the loader, the system is effectively shifting the blame, you could say, for the delay. It's not the whole application's fault. It's this one specific identifiable part.
Yeah, I sort of picture the loader like the one person checking IDs at the door of a really big bureaucratic party. Tells you exactly who the gatekeeper is, and that gives the delay some context. If the whole party just seems slow, that's just frustrating. But if you know the holdup is because of one meticulous person at the door, well, your frustration gets focused. It's not just general annoyance.
And focused frustration is easier to manage psychologically. If the entire system feels slow, you might just give up, close the browser. But if it's the loader that's slow, you might maybe grudgingly wait for the loader to finish its task. The source material kind of validates the delay by pointing to the system component that's doing a necessary, even if annoying, job. It tells you the slowness isn't random, it's like departmental.
Okay, so this leads us right into the core function of the delay itself. Let's focus on that verb. Please wait while your request is being verified.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that act of verification is it's the ultimate justification for taking up the user's time. It speaks directly to our current digital world, where trust and security are absolutely paramount. The system is basically saying, look, I'm pausing, but this pause is functional, it's necessary, and it might even be for your own safety or the integrity of the data.
What's really interesting here is just how broad that term verification is.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't have the original context for these sources, so this could be verification of your login details for some huge corporate system maybe, or verifying the syntax of a database query, or just checking that the next step in some process is loaded correctly. It could be anything.
Exactly. And that generalization of request and verified makes it highly scalable, very efficient. It means this single piece of messaging code can be dropped into pretty much any digital transaction where some kind of checkpoint is needed. The vagueness gives you maximum coding efficiency while still providing that necessary psychological justification to the person waiting.
But let's circle back to the psychology of waiting, especially when the process is called verification. A spinning circle just implies, technical calculation, processing. But the word verification, it carries a hint of suspicion, doesn't it? So this raises a really interesting question. Does knowing the specific step being verified actually increase or decrease your anxiety as a user?
It creates a fascinating tension, I think. On one hand, yes, the transparency, knowing what's happening, that should reduce anxiety because you know the system hasn't just crashed. But if that verification process starts taking longer than that initial one-moment promise, then the user's anxiety shifts completely. They stop worrying so much about the machine's speed and start worrying about the validity of their own requests.
Right, exactly. You start thinking, why is my request taking so long to verify? Is there something wrong with my security token? Did I mistype my password? Am I getting flagged for something? It completely flips the script. The user starts to internalize the delay. They turn the system's slowness into potential self-doubt.
And that subtly maintains the system's position of authority, doesn't it? By constantly communicating that the machine is checking, confirming your input, it reinforces your dependence on the machine's judgment. It's all about these subtle power dynamics hidden away in interface design. The system always verifies you. You rarely get to verify the system in the same way.
So the system has, in a way, kind of weaponized transparency. Masterfully, even. It gives you just enough detail, being verified, to confirm it's active, but not so much detail that it reveals any underlying slowness or issues, which ultimately keeps the user from just closing the tab or hitting refresh too soon.
Yeah, because the alternative would be much more jarring, wouldn't it? Imagine if a system actually displayed something like waiting for external API call response from third-party vendor X, latency currently high due to server load at 85%. I mean, that would be true transparency, but it would probably shatter user confidence and make the system look unreliable. Being verified is just opaque enough to maintain that confidence while still sounding, highly professional and necessary.
Okay, so we've managed to dissect these three really short fragments of text. Let's try and synthesize what we found. We've identified politeness, one moment please, then specific technical naming, loader, and finally this necessary-sounding justification, request is being verified.
And when you put them all together, these phrases really represent a complete micro-engineered strategy for managing digital latency. It happens in 3 steps. First, acknowledge the user and their time. Second, identify the specific technical bottleneck, even if vaguely. And third, justify that delay using a concept like security or integrity. And all of that packed into the absolute minimal character space needed for efficiency.
It really is an incredible economy of language. Every single word is load-bearing, doing a specific job. So what does all this mean for you listening right now? You, the person who sees countless loading screens every single day. Why should you care about the linguistic choices behind a simple verification message?
Well, I think understanding this micro-level communication design helps you become a more critical user, a more aware user. You can stop just passively accepting the message and start actually analyzing the intent behind the language. When a system uses that generic being verified, maybe ask yourself, is the real goal verification? Or is the actual process maybe too complex or proprietary or perhaps just embarrassingly slow to explain properly?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me is recognizing the difference between actual information and simple reassurance. So many systems prioritize just reassuring you over giving you genuine information. Like think about when you're waiting on hold for customer service. That's a non-digital latency example, right? They keep repeating, your call is important to us. That's pure reassurance. It gives you zero actual information about when you'll finally talk to someone.
Exactly. And the digital world, with its being verified, takes that a step further. It cleverly merges reassurance with the sense of implied technical necessity. It's
Right.
basically saying, not only are you important, but this delay is also important. It's really the rhetorical foundation of a lot of modern interface design.
Think about where else you encounter this model. Every time you log into an app or submit a web form or finalize some online transaction, you bump up against this carefully constructed boundary between the promise of digital speed and the messy reality of data processing. Knowing that even one moment, please, is actually a design piece of behavioral psychology, it kind of changes how you see the whole interaction.
It gives you back a little bit of control, perhaps, or at least awareness. You recognize the system is using language specifically to manage your behavior rather than just neutrally reporting its status.
This has been absolutely fascinating, actually, just analyzing the incredible weight carried by the sparsest technical language.
Yeah.
These few words really show that great interface design isn't only about functionality.
Yeah.
It's also about sophisticated social cues, politeness, and psychological management.
Yeah, the systems we rely on are constantly checking, confirming, verifying things behind the scenes. And they've clearly optimized the most effective way to communicate that intense back-end workload without completely undermining our confidence as users.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to maybe mull over the next time you find yourself staring at that loading screen. If a digital system is constantly asking you to wait while something about your input or your identity is verified, what criteria are you using in return to verify that system's trustworthiness and its efficiency? Does the perceived politeness, that please, really justify the recurring lack of speed? Something to think about the next time the loader makes you wait.